So hello everyone, and welcome to our first webinar for the European NGO Network on GPP. My name is Estela Grana from ICLEI, and I will be today your host for this webinar, which we're doing together with the European Environmental Bureau. We have here Carsten Bachholz from the Europe EEB, who will be supporting us, and from ICLEI's team we also have Juliana Longworth and Simon Clement. The main aim of this one-hour webinar is to provide an introduction to some of the possibilities that we see for NGOs to engage on GPP. You can see the agenda here. We have included two different discussions. The first one will be on how to identify call for tenders that are related to your work and that could be interesting in order to include some GPP criteria. This will be done by myself. And this will be done based on the guidance that we produced a couple of weeks ago. And the second looks at a different perspective about the work on of the EEB in the field of the GPP criteria development and the general policy work on GPP. For the discussion here, as said, we have our colleague Carsten Bachholz from the EEB, who are also coordinators of this network. There will be some time for questions at the end of each presentation. So please, if you have any questions, you can send them via the questions and answer chat, or you can send them as well to Juliana Longworth, our colleague who will be dealing with the questions. She will be forwarding them to Carsten or to me. And if you have any difficulties, please also let Juliana know. She will try to provide you with a solution. So I think if everything is clear so far, I would like to start with my presentation on how to identify tender opportunities for GPP. I hope you've seen the guidance document that we produced a couple of weeks ago. It's been uploaded to the website. It's a one-pager. Well, it was meant to be a one-pager document, but it's 2 pages at the end, where we have listed a series of steps that we think are really important if you're trying to engage with public authorities on GPP. We know that when you want to start, as some of you, it's the case. Some of you have experience on GPP, but for others of you, it's going to be the first experience. We know that starting can be a little overwhelming, that, well, it's a lot to work on. Public procurement rules are very strict. Public procurers are very limited. And even for some of the sectors that you're working on, it might be hard to get the connection. Where can my sector be connected to GPP? So this kind of answers we've tried to address, the questions we've tried to address in this one-pager. And we have identified 4 steps that we think are relevant if you want to engage in GPP. And these 4 steps are the ones I'm going to explain today. If you look, we have step 1, identification of relevant contracting authorities. We have step 2, looking for ongoing procurement procedures. Step 3, including GPP aspects in upcoming procurements, and step 4, approaching public authorities with specific improvements. We're going to go into details of all of these steps, and I would like to show you as well practical examples that you see how does this work in reality. So if we go to the first step, we have the identification of relevant contracting authorities. Well, the public procurement directives define a contracting authority as the state, regional, local authority, or bodies governed by public law or associations formed by one or much of such authorities governed by public law. Okay, this means it's clear. It means cities, municipalities, regional administrations, or even the central government of your country, but also includes other kinds of public bodies that sometimes are not so evident, such as universities, schools, hospitals, prisons, port and water authorities, etc. So for some of these sectors, the connection between your sector and the contracting authority is very clear. For instance, if you want to influence the way the river restorations in your city or in your region are being made, well, you should turn to your regional administration or to the relevant water authority. This is clear. I mean, there's no. It's quite clear who is doing this work and who you should turn to. But if you're looking, for instance, at other kind of contracts, for instance, energy efficiency in public buildings, your scope can get much broader. So you can work with many authorities, such as hospitals, universities, schools, and the one we have mentioned before. Or the same if you want to work on food and catering, You might think of the classic sectors, which are maybe schools or universities, because you know they have public canteens, but maybe you don't think of hospitals or public prisons that also purchase this kind of products. So this is why the first step is identify the contracting authority that has actually the potential to purchase the kind of products and services that you would like to influence in this first step. If you come to the situation that you have identified a contracting authority or a list of contracting authorities that might be relevant for your work, well, you're not sure which one should you approach first. Well, you have to look at other aspects, no? You have to look at, do I have a good working relationship with this contracting authority? Have I worked with them before? It doesn't have to be maybe on GPP, but maybe I've worked with them together in a training, or I met them at a conference and we had a good relationship, and maybe they can kind of talk from us to the procurer and pave the way for this connection. So this could be a good way to approach a contracting authority. Or maybe you know that a certain contracting authority is more open towards environmental issues than others. You know that some university has a sustainability department, and if you approach them with a catering concept, including green criteria, they might be much opener than others towards this criteria. So this is also a good way. So you have to try to find the connection, but well, in this case, it would be done. You identify your contracting authority, and you think which is the best way to approach it. The second step would include looking for ongoing procurement procedures. So this means I know who I want to work with, but I would like to see what kind of tenders does this contracting authority usually produce. This means, well, you might know what kind of works they do, but know how they procure them, which kind of technical specifications they use, in which detail, which kind of criteria they use. Are they using GPP criteria already? Are they not? And if yes, are they ambitious enough? So you can get a lot of information from analyzing tenders that have been already ongoing, no? and contracts. So in this case, you will look at these contracts, but of course, knowing that you are no longer able to influence them. Because once a call for tender is published, it's open, it's gone to the market, so you don't have any possibility to change the actual content of the tender documents, or in very rare situations. So it's a good way to see how this contracting authority work, to analyze the tender. Maybe you can even check, okay, this contract from the past tender, it's going to be for a year. That means, you know, in 1 year, the contracting authority will likely publish another contract, which means that in 10 months, this contracting authority will be working in this tender. So I will be able to approach them. So this is a good way to get a feeling, what are they working on, how do they work in procurement, and more or less, how can I approach them. Where do these contracting authorities advertise their tenders? Well, they do it in many different platforms. They do it if it's, well, if the value of the tender is above certain thresholds, which are defined in the directives, in the Public Procurement Directives. They publish it in the Tenders Electronic Daily. That means in the TED platform. We've seen that before. We saw it in the meeting in Hungary. We show you how it works. So this is a platform that that works very well. I think I have a screenshot here, where public authorities from all over Europe publish their tenders if they are above a certain threshold. The second way you can find these tenders, it's on their own organizational websites of the contracting authorities. Usually, every city, central government, public hospital, every public body has a website. And in every of these websites, there is usually a section called procurement. And you can find there all the opportunities that are ongoing. I've shown here an example, for instance, from the City of London. If you go to the webpage of the City of London, you go to the website business part, and there is a part which is called Tenders and Procurement. So you can see here all the procurements that they are planning and all the procurements that are actually ongoing, and even the forthcoming ones. So the City of London also publishes everything that they are planning to release in the future. So it's a really good opportunity. You can go to the procurement part of the public contracting authority and have a look which kind of tenders have they published, which are they working on, and so forth. Another possibility is to check in one of these national e-procurement platforms. This is getting more and more common nowadays, as the directives, the public procurement directives require that by 2018, well, everyone works with e-procurement. So you can see many of the well, national, even regional and local level have started their own procurement platforms. I put here an example from the Irish National Procurement Platform, and they tend to collect all procurements, well, not all of them, because this is not compulsory yet, but they have quite a lot of national procurements ongoing on very different topics. So if you're looking for a tender, you go to the national procurement platform of your country, select the sector that you're looking for, and it's very likely that you find something going on. This is yet again not something that you can influence, because it's something which has already been published, but it's also something you can download, get the feeling of what they're doing, how they're working on this, and how could you eventually approach this contracting authority on this topic. So this would be the step 2, get a feeling what the contracting authority is doing already and how they're doing it. Understand how they think, so you can think how you can support them. This would be the second step. If we go to the third step, we have the step including GPP aspects in upcoming procurements. Okay, because it's very good, I know how this contracting authority thinks, but if I'm not able to influence the call for tenders, well, I can't actually get GPP in any call for tenders. This is still not very broad. Not all of the contracting authorities do this, but many, and every day even more, are starting to publish their intentions of purchasing works, products, and services. That means they don't publish ready procurement documents, which are already a call for tenders. They publish different documents in the pre-procurement stage. There are several ways that how a public authority can do this, but the most common that we are seeing is the publication of a prior information notice, of a PIN. This is something that public authorities publish in the supplement of the official journal of the European Union, which is this TED platform. This is yet again voluntary. That means public authorities are not forced to publish this, but they are usually, well, it's recommended that if your contract is above 700,000 euro or something like similar, then they should publish this to give suppliers a little of time to prepare for the tender. So this is a very good exercise. I'll show you now how you can check this, but you can go to the Tender Electronic Days List platform, TED platform, and check who or which contracting authority has published already a PIN and on which topic. So it works very well. I'll show you how in a minute. We have also other ways, for instance, market sounding questionnaires. That means the public authority would like to work on a tender, is working on a tender, would like to publish it, but needs or wants to get a feeling of how the market actually will respond. So they don't really trust that what they are asking might be so feasible, or they would like to get more information, or they would like to adapt the tender to what the suppliers actually can deliver, of course with a certain level of ambition, but that it's not impossible to answer to this tender. So they publish these market sounding questionnaires, and they ask a few questions to the potential suppliers and try to get more information about what's feasible and what's not. This is also a very good opportunity, because when you see a contracting authority has published a market sounding questionnaire, you know there is a procurement behind that, and you can actually start thinking, how can I approach this contracting authority and offer my support to integrate GPP. And last, well, there are other ways, but from the most common ones, it's supply information days. This is similar to the market sounding questionnaire, but it's more ambitious. This is actually a meeting that the contracting authority organizes and invites all potential suppliers of the relevant sector or contract that they are working on. So they organize these meetings, and they usually offer the possibility to suppliers to express what they think about the procurement plans. This is also a very good opportunity to get a feeling who are the suppliers on the topic, who is offering what, and what's the current status of the procurement. Because in these meetings, the technical specifications are discussed, some very technical details are discussed, and the suppliers give their opinion. So if you're working with certain GPP criteria or with green criteria in general, you could get a feeling if it's feasible from suppliers, if they're ready to deliver that, if not. So this is also a very good opportunity to go there, see what the status of the tender is and the market is, and then think of a strategy to approach the contracting authority. If you see, well, this is from the TED platform. It's a search for the prior information notices from PINs. That is, well, I've done it today. So you see for catering, prior information notice with call for competition or even without call for competition. And you add this in the search function of TED, and you get all these many answers from Italy, United Kingdom, the Netherlands, all on catering, and all being published in April. So it's really, we know not everyone is publishing their pins here. It's not compulsory, but many contracting authorities are actually doing it. So it's a good opportunity if you check this from time to time. I'm going to try to show you how it works if the technology allows it. I'm going to share my screen. Looks like it's working. So if you go to the TED platform, which is very, very simple, you go to Google and you write, Tenders Electronic Daily or TED, and you get to the website. You're here. This is the English version, but it's in all European languages. So you can select the language you want to see the platform on, and you go to the advanced search function. And you write here, well, we've seen with catering, but we could say now with construction. It's very broad, but could be a way. And then here in type of document, you can select the country. I'm going to leave it blank, so we see all the countries that the system has right now for construction. And then we're going to write here type of document. In this drop-down, you select prior information notice without call for competition and with call for competition. This is, well, it's a small difference, but for this stage, well, if you want to influence or approach the construction authority, both could be very, very good. One of them, it's well, it implies that it will come out the tender. The other one, it's less likely that it will come out, but it's showing the intention, but they are not so committed yet to this. So you have this information, and then you go to search and see. Everything that's coming here has been published today. So all this construction work, of course, it's very, very generic and broad, but you see the potential of this tool. So this is a very good way to see there's something going on. Also, if it's not at your local level, because at your local or regional level, you might be a little bit better informed, but maybe at the national level, maybe not, or even at the European level, probably you didn't get any information of any of these contracts before. So this is how TED works. But you can also check, I think I have it open here, well, other public authorities are publishing, for instance, market sounding questionnaires. This is from Italy, from a health service from Emilia Romagna. And they've published a market sounding questionnaire with different questions. They would like to evaluate the suppliers, and they would like to say, okay, we have organized this in 4 sections: know-how from the supply chain, your experience, insights about the tender documents, well, and some information about the potential suppliers. So they already published a questionnaire that you can start filling, and well, this way you are not suppliers, you wouldn't fill the questionnaire, or maybe you would to say you have interest in the tender but not to apply for it. but you know for sure that this public authority is working on a tender. It's going to be, well, they say innovative healthcare facility management for people. So they already have a subject for the tender. So you can start working on how you will approach this construction authority and what can you offer them, how can you support them. You go, for instance, to the City of London, what we saw before. This is also, this is not done by all the cities or all local authorities, but some of them do not only publish ongoing procurements, but also forthcoming procurements. So we see here in London, in tenders and procurements, you go here, I selected construction, but they have a few categories, and there's like children and community services. We check the drop down and we see publication of 2 pins. Well, they're not called pins because they're on their website, but they already say we are going to have a contract for youth services or for electronic social care record systems. And this is going to start the 17th of June, and this is going to be in that department, and the tender is it's planned, but it's not yet out, or it hasn't been, the tender documents are not ready, or whatever the status may be. So these are the possibilities you've got. Not everyone does it. As said, it's, everything is voluntary, but again, it's a good opportunity to check who is doing what. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, trying to go back to the system. I think it should be working. So these are the examples I've shown you live, and we can move now to the 4th step, which would be actually approaching public authorities with specific improvements. So we've seen, okay, we know with which contracting authority we want to work with. We know how they work. We've checked tenders from the past and contracts from the past, and we know the way that they usually procure these kind of contracts. We know the way that they specify their criteria. We know how detailed the technical specifications are, and we know how we could support them. Actually, we have seen that they are planning another procurement because we have checked a PIN, or we've seen them in its website, and we know that we could do something to support them and to include GPP. But what do we do? So this is very key. You have to really think what the organization actually can deliver, and you have to be really constructive with the public authority, because if you make a bad experience, it's very likely that they will not count with your help or your support in a further procurement, in an upcoming procurement. So you have to be careful, think of your strategy, how you approach the contracting authority, and think what can you support them with, what can you offer. So for this, you can check what kind of activities. For instance, something that NGOs can usually do very well is conducting trainings. So you could, if you have a relevant expertise, you could offer the contracting authority, look, for your procurement team working in this tender, I would like to conduct a short training on how to implement GPP criteria, or how to conduct market engagement with the suppliers, or whatever expertise your organization might have. So this would be an option. Another option could be, for instance, you know some contracting authorities have some fears or challenges when greening contracts, for instance. They all fear that if they include something very innovative, no one will respond. So they fear that, okay, I'm going to work in this tender very hard. I'm going to plan, instead of the 1 month planning of this tender, I'm going to devote 6 months. But then what if no supplier responds to this tender? Because I will have to repeat it. So it's not only the work I'm investing right now, it's the work I will have to invest in the future, and this whole delay that is going to happen if I don't get to award the contract at the first chance. So this is a fear that most of the public procurers have, and you have to address that. How can you address this? For instance, you can say, look, we would like to include this kind of criteria, and we know there are a few suppliers that actually work with this criteria, or that can deliver this kind of products and services. We know that this and this suppliers are actually able to do that. So this is a way that you can actually go to the public authority with very clear instructions and very good guidance on how they can include certain criteria. Or, for instance, some procurers fear that they're going to do something which is not the standard. And when they move from the standard, they will end up being challenged because, well, something didn't work out, or they forgot some clause, or they did it in a wrong way. So maybe you could support them by identifying some experts on the topic and saying, look, this expert could look this standard and check that you are doing everything according to the law, so you wouldn't have the fear of being challenged. This could be another way. And yeah, there are many ways. You know best than anyone what your organization is good at, is strong at. For instance, another way could be supporting in the organization of meet-the-market events. That means if the contracting authority wants to meet the suppliers to check what's the status quo of the market, you can say, okay, I help you because I know a few suppliers working on the topic and delivering green products and services. I will help you in the organization of these meet-the-market events, and I will invite or let all these suppliers know about your tender. So this could be another way. But as said, there's as many ways as you can think of. You know yourselves better than anyone what your strengths are. So this would be the 4 steps from 1 to 4, from identifying the contracting authority to actually offering some specific support in which you could actually help the contracting authority influence the tender and achieve getting a greener tender on the market for greener products and services. I hope this has been useful. Might be a lot of information for someone that hasn't been involved with procurement so far, but well, we're here, we're from the network, so you can ask any question now, and also during the following months. I'm happy to help you here. So I'm not sure if there has been any questions. Juliana, I'm going to check if she sent me some. Okay, I have one question that says, what are the thresholds from the from public authorities to publish in the TED platform? Well, the thresholds are actually in the public procurement directives, but well, I think it's easier if you just type TED, that's tender electronic daily threshold. I've checked them a few times, as you can see. And you can go to the website of the journal, and here you should have here the thresholds. For instance, for public works, we have over 5,225,000 euro. And then for service contracts, supplies contracts is over 200,000 euro. And for supplies and services in the sector of water, energy, and transport, 400,000. So you have here the thresholds. They're not very little. I mean, if you're working in big cities, these thresholds are likely to be all the time. Well, the contracts are likely to be above these thresholds. But if you're working maybe in a small municipality or at a small city, it's not likely that some specific contracts go above this threshold. In that case, they would not be forced to publish it in this platform. But as said, it's getting more and more trendy, and that contracting authorities are actually publishing their tenders in their websites or in the TED platform, even if they don't have to or they're not forced by law. So here you can find the thresholds. Hope that answered your question. Okay, I think we don't have any further questions so far. So Carsten, I hope you're there, that you didn't fall asleep during my presentation. I'm going to pass you the ball, and you can start your presentation when you want.
Okay, thanks, Estella. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me on this webinar. I think you need to click by yourself on the second presentation, which starts with 2EB influencing GPP. And I would like to say a few words about our engagement on GPP and in the project. Then I will mainly focus on our work at EU level, how we are trying to influence the GPP criteria development process. And then we open up for discussion where I outline, similar to Estella, but not on that detailed level, what could be potential activities by NGOs engaging on GPP policies, so what we saw from our membership, for instance. And that could be a possible link to your thinking, which you've probably already done on your activity plans. So I'm sorry that I couldn't join the Budapest training you did in January. So a quick introduction to myself. I've been working for 3 years now for the European Environmental Bureau. It's an NGO network here in Brussels. I think I can click by myself. You should see the second slide now. So it's one of the umbrella groups here present in Brussels for environmental NGOs. We were already created 40 years ago, so that's why the name Bureau says basically that in 1974 we were the first office for NGOs to represent their interests vis-à-vis the EU institutions. And today we are a federation of more than 150 environmental citizens organizations. So we represented with more than, with a couple of members basically in all member states and a few neighboring countries. And once a year we have a general meeting where we decide on our work program. So if GPP is of relevance and a priority for us or not. We have a board where also member organizations per country are represented, and we try to integrate also other networks which focus on specific environmental topics within the EEB. So if you want to know more, you will find it on our website, but basically you see from our work program that it tries to cover the whole environmental policy agenda at EU level, from climate and energy up to water or circular economy. And then we also follow very closely certain horizontal legal instruments, try to link it with global UN policies on sustainability, and ensure that we make use of the tools of the Aarhus Convention so that environmental organizations and citizens can engage on environmental policies, both at the EU and at a national level. Why we engage in the field of GPP, I think it's probably similar to your own motivation. Usually it's all linked to the broader topic of sustainable consumption and production. So by reinforcing the demand side, we hope to create a critical mass of greener products and services to be available on the market. And then we want to make sure that the choices we are doing, which products to purchase, go towards the less environmentally harmful, more resource efficient, reusable, repairable, recyclable products. But of course, it's still, if you talk about procurement, we discussed that in different projects and fora, it's still about buying stuff. And with the new challenge around the circular economy, we try to look into ways how you can mainstream also other business models than just buying, consuming, and then try to make sure that it can be reused or recycled. So that goes more into the direction, how do we manage better our stocks and portfolios of stuff which is already there, and so that we don't have to buy completely new stuff. Then GPP is only one of the different EU product instruments we have at place. So there's also the Eco Design Directive, there's the energy label, there's the EU Eco label. We talk about, for certain sectors and product categories, also about extended producer responsibility schemes. So one objective of the EU, of the EEB, is that we try to ensure more consistencies between those tools, because we talk about criteria separately on the same product categories sometimes in these different tools. And of course, they would be more effective if we try to align our approach towards what we mean by being green or sustainable in that place. And then finally, that's the link with the project on capacity building. We try to support our own members, and now also you as partner of the EU NGO network on GPP, how we can enhance the uptake and use of those criteria and instruments which we develop on a national, regional, or local level. It fits quite well with our other EU policy work, because I mean, by having policy officers working on all these different fields, we can somehow help the Commission to implement a life cycle approach when it comes to product policies. So we look at environmental impacts from sourcing for materials to the design and use phase up to what happens to them at the end of life. And that's usually dealt with under different EU directives. So if we talk about green public procurement, it's pretty obvious that we shouldn't find nice formulation which basically only repeats what is anyway legally required. So obviously we want to push GPP to a higher performance level going beyond the legal required minimum. As I said, we can integrate our expertise from different policy fields to make sure that we really tackle the relevant environmental impacts and hotspots and how we can reuse them through GPP. And of course, that's what I already meant, especially with the eco-label, which scheme and other certification schemes which you might have in place in certain sectors or national level. We can use that as a benchmarking verification tools for green public procurement as well. We don't have to reinvent the wheel each time we're talking about a certain product category. So our vision as the EEB, you see from the baseline, most of our work on GPP is currently taking place as part of our work on the circular economy. Of course, there are more environmental aspects we are addressing through GPP, but within the work on circular economy, we have developed this kind of idea of a kind of pyramid of different performance level. So as I said, the legal minimum requirements, that's our work related to, for instance, the Eco-Design Directive, but also other legislation. Then we try to transform extended producer responsibility schemes where they are existing and appropriate into something which pushes companies to move up the waste hierarchy and become more sustainable also in their product design and in their offers and how they deal with products from a full life cycle perspective. And then we see procurement as basically even higher up the hierarchy, where you should aim for something like 20–30% of the best performing products and services available on the market. And then we have labels of excellence, like, for instance, eco-labels, which target only the top 10–20% of available on the market. But these instruments are currently designed one by one, so there's not a proper understanding how they interact and how do you establish the right performance levels which you should target through the different tools. And that's something where we are facilitating discussions with other stakeholders. How can we get more consistency to really drive and give incentives for producers and service providers to move up that hierarchy? So now I'm focusing more on first explaining to you what we as the EEB are doing on GPP at the EU level, and then we can I can outline what we can offer to the network as part of how you could benefit from that. And also I would like to have some feedback how you could make use of our work for your own activity plans. So currently we are mainly communicating with our own member organizations and other environmental networks which are around here in Brussels, who have an interest in influencing the EU GPP criteria development process. And mainly it's about checking with them actively that we can incorporate their feedback with regard to their areas of interest and expertise. Because if we would only rely on the knowledge of me as a policy officer or my colleagues, that's probably not sufficient to make an impact on the criteria, because as you know, from food to transport to whatever, product policies are so broad in scope, and also the environmental impacts related to them, so that we really have to make sure that we provide the most updated expertise on what should be tackled through GPP criteria. We do that because we, through nominating technical representatives, experts, so we have some budget available and secured, which allows us to attend the meetings, so don't worry about the acronyms. It's called ad hoc working group meetings. I will show you on the other slide when I show you the formal process the Commission has set up for developing these criteria. But that makes it more easy for us that we not only attend those meetings or participate as a policy officer, but for each product group we have the possibility to bring technical experts to that group. And these experts help us preparing a kind of preliminary set of comments. Those we consult with other environmental NGOs and our members in advance of the meetings. Then we see how the discussion goes during the meetings and can incorporate further or consolidate these comments after the meetings and submit them in written form. And before we do that, we have another round of consultation with members and other NGOs. And then there is a final step where we once again update what we have gathered as intelligence on GPP criteria so far, before they then will be approved finally by the institutions. And there is an advisory board meeting mainly which mainly gathers the member states experts on GPP, who also give their views on GPP policies at EU level. So you don't have to zoom in too much into that graphic. You will have the slides available later on. It's just to point to you, it's not like you might expect there's one point where stakeholders are asked to provide input to the process and then it's done and the Commission decides it all on their own what they define as green criteria for public procurement. They do quite a comprehensive process which can last up to 2-3 years to complete with a new set of criteria for GPP. And it starts with a quite extensive research which they call a preliminary report, basically gathering the market situation, a lot of life cycle assessment studies, identifying which are the most relevant impacts and how they could be addressed for procurement, what has already been incorporated in procurement processes, and how can you improve it. And then there is a second report which covers then already the different criteria areas with proposals how you could set criteria in call for tenders. And then we gather different meetings, as I said, so we have at least, on average, two rounds of consultation, which is then the possibility, because it would be quite an effort for you if you want to contribute on your own for each round or even be present at the meetings. They are open. You can register for each product group on your own if you want to follow that. But as we are doing that as the EB anyway, we can easily offer you to share that information at the different steps. So to inform you when a new product group will be launched, when the reports will be available, when there is a possibility to provide input either into our comments as EB or to provide separate comments on your own to the Commission. The same thing is repeated around a second stakeholder consultation meeting. So the same reports will be updated and you can see what has been taken into account from the comments from the first round, what new issues have emerged also through comments from other stakeholders, and we can consolidate our comments on that product group. And then finally, as I pointed out, there's a third round which is only taking place in written form. Before then, the Commission comes up with their final draft for the GPP criteria and need to consult internally before they can finalize and publish them. Maybe a bit more in detail, I mean, if you're interested, currently we've just concluded providing comments on 2 product groups. It was, I think, street lighting and transport modes. But there will be another round coming up soon, and then we can share with you how it looks like. But basically, we prepare a web template which already structures the comments around the documents prepared by the Commission. So you can easily see where are your topics being reflected in that, where does it fit in, and what have we as EB or our technical experts said about it, and then you can add about that, add your own additional demands and intelligence for that. So there is a rationale and argumentation for the key issues that need to be addressed, plus our recommendations how the criteria should be improved. and which we also give some indications which are our priorities for each product group. And this document will be shared with you. We collect your comments, we consolidate it, we submit it to the Commission, but you can of course do it also complementary on your own. Our document will be updated after each consultation, after each meeting, and you can find what we have done so far on the still ongoing processes on our website. Yeah, and in addition, there is another way how you officially and more smoothly integrate your comments through an electronic system, the BATE system, and there is the final written consultation. So what is our added value? Why are we doing it on behalf of other NGOs? Because we are currently often one of the few NGOs represented in the process. And it's mainly that we are not only focusing on the policy level. So we're not only looking at the directives itself, how they go through the legislative process, and once they have been adopted, we say that's it. Because the actual network, the actual work takes place in defining the criteria, so the implementation processes. And we not only do that for GPP, we do the similar thing, product-specific for eco-design, energy labeling, the eco-label. And most often we tackle similar product groups, so we can build on the discussions and insights and studies which have been done under the other directives to inform also the GPP process. Through that work, we have a large network not only of NGOs, but also of external experts working on specific product groups, sectors, or environmental policies. We are a member of something what is called the Environmental Footprint Pilot Phase here in Brussels, which is basically a project by the EU to come up with a kind of more harmonized way of doing life cycle assessment. And we are a member of the steering committee and technical advisory board there, so we know which environmental impacts we are able to capture properly through life cycle assessment and which we are currently not doing. And we can point to these knowledge and saying when you set GPP criteria, you should not only rely on LCA, you need to look also into other sources of information about impacts which are relevant to be tackled in that product group. Yeah, there are synergies with other activities we are doing currently in the, on this EU circular economy package, and we try to coordinate with other networks and campaigns around the EU eco-label and the eco-design one. Just to give you a flavor, these are the 5 product groups I'm currently following, and you see with which kind of experts we are working with. So on food, for instance, it's the Eco Institute in Germany. With something very technical like street lighting, we have a dedicated consultancy who looks really at the technological development of street lighting systems for us and provide input there. We have an own NGO network specialized around transport, so that's why we collaborate with them. Data centers will be coming up for discussion, and something which is very broad around maintenance of public spaces like parks, streets, all sorts of green spaces in playgrounds in municipalities. And there we decided to collaborate with a consultancy who does a lot of consultants work for municipalities because it's really targeting municipalities. So these are the things which the knowledge from these experts we can harvest them and make it accessible also for your work if there is an overlap or an interest on those product groups. So the Commission obviously has a work program, and there is already something like 20 product groups, 21 I think, where GPP criteria have already been developed. You find that on the EU website. Probably ICLEI have provided you with those links anyway. But of course, once they are there, they are getting outdated after some time. So you need to have a constant rolling system where we visit those criteria, and you see some of them will be finalized rather soon, and then there are the 5 which were on my previous slide, which will be finalized in within the coming 2 years. And obviously now the discussion already starts. What is the Commission looking at in the years starting from 2018 onwards. And that's what they say. It's prioritization issue, because we can't deal with all product groups at the same time, because we need the resources also to do the background research and to facilitate all these stakeholder meetings. So they looked first at which product groups need to be updated before 2021. You see, they already take into account the timeline of 2 to 3 years before they have managed to cope with the product group properly. Computer monitors are on the list, office buildings, and again transport, because there need to be some further updated criteria according to the recently adopted legislation on air quality, for instance, and also on cars. So those product groups where member states have already developed own criteria. So the EU criteria process comes on top of that, trying to inform member states where they might want to update their own criteria, which they want to use. And then there are also the discussion which other new topics are coming up. So for instance, Sweden looked more closely at medical equipment in the health sector, which could be considered for developing EU criteria. And there is always also ongoing discussions which products will be dealt on the eco-design and the eco-label. And that's why we also provide our position and thinking to the Commission, what we think which are the product groups which should be prioritized for criteria development. To sum it up, what our basic offer to the NGO network is, we can share the knowledge from the EU criteria development process. To some extent also on the criteria which is already there, but mainly on those which are currently being updated or developed. And as I said, starting from the nomination of technical experts, we can make that knowledge accessible to you. We can share with you the discussions which take place at the stakeholder meetings, and share our comments with you, and provide you the opportunity to either do your own separate comments on it, or to incorporate your demands within our EB comments. And then there's also a possibility for us to follow up on certain topics with other stakeholders who engage on GPP. Mainly it's public procurers, but of course also the industry is heavily represented in these meetings. And sometimes there is an overlap of interest, sometimes there is a clash of interest, and we have the possibility to follow up on these topics. Beyond the EU criteria development process, I try to give a few broad directions. I mean, I've not looked into all the details of your activity plans which you have drafted, but I will do so. We agreed that we will come back to you very soon on your plans which you have drafted so far. But we see different levels of engagement. So if you're an NGO who is very good at advocacy work at the national level, we saw, for instance, in Italy that they decided for certain product groups, they will not just rely that public procurers will take up Green Public Procurement criteria. They make it mandatory to be used in a certain percentage of procurement call for tenders on certain products. I think they prioritized energy, where I think 50% of all call for tenders need to incorporate green criteria, and in others it's even 100%. Then there is the possibility to develop own proposals for GPP, and I would expect that you don't want to get lost in 20 different product groups. So either you focus on key products which matter for your own work. So if you are focusing on air quality, probably clean vehicles is a very specific one, which you might want to tackle through GPP. Or I know other members of our network, for instance, don't focus on specific products. They focus on horizontal topics. So there is increasing interest around plastic pollution. So if you are having a campaign about phasing out single-use plastic items, again, you need to follow the approach that Estella has pointed out to identify which are the product groups where public procurers can make a difference to avoid purchasing these type of things and focus more on reusable or refillable solutions. Then there is always the way also to invest a bit more in a personal relationship or even joint projects with certain public entities which procure a lot and consult with them in general how they could improve their procurement. And I think I'm pointing to the same type. It's not only the administration, it's also public-owned or public-governed institutions like schools, hospitals, or waste operators, which have sometimes very specific needs in terms of procurement and where you can make a difference and helping them out. Yeah, and then probably what we are going to do through our project with the NGO network, organize experience sharing and trainings on how to implement greener procurement, and trying to help you getting access to topical experts and responsible procurers to see how solutions can work out and how you can help others to take up these solutions for their own procurement. And I think with that, I'm done. I just point to that I'm not the only one working on these topics. So my colleague Stefan Naditi has a good overview about product policy and circular economy in general. I have a colleague who works only on the EU eco-labeling scheme, but some product groups are covered both for GPP and eco-labels, so she takes care of them, like for instance cleaning products, and myself focusing on the 5 product groups which I've already explained to you. And I'm also your first contact point when it comes to questions from the NGO network. So sorry, Estella, I think I've nearly reached the 1 hour limit, but let's check what we can still manage to do in terms of facilitation of questions and answers.
Okay, yeah, we're almost on, I think we are on time. I have time for a couple of questions. So if you have questions for Carsten, please send them to me or to Juliana, and we'll forward them to him. Okay, we have a question, and it's what kind of feedback do you get from the Commission for the consultations?
Yeah.
I think it's meant what kind of feedback does the Commission is asking, no, for in the consultation. So this is how I understand it.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the Commission, from a formal point of view, they need to ensure that there is a balance of representation from different stakeholders in those consultations. And as I pointed out, it's no problem that the affected industry will be there, but to ensure that there are also other societal groups in there, it's much more challenging. That's why we have an agreement with the Commission that we get some capacity to come to the meetings and bring our expertise there. The type of expertise they're interested in is mainly about prioritization of environmental issues, so which are the relevance, which are more important. So you don't want to come up with a kind of greenwashing thing. So you add a criteria, let's say about 10% bio-based plastics to be incorporated in packaging, and then you find out, but actually the main environmental impact comes from hazardous certain additives to those plastics. So this kind of expertise, where industry might want to make their life easier because they want to be eligible to as many public tenders as possible, we point out where are the crucial things where public tenders should make a difference compared to what's available on the market today. And the other one is a bit about which are the expectations from consumers and citizens, how should public procurers become a kind of model for consuming responsible. So it should be less about the technical criteria, but more about what is the expectations towards public authorities to consume or to procure sustainable. And in general, I mean, all our inputs are appreciated, but I would say it's around, if we are lucky, 60–70%. You will see the reflections in the final procurement proposal, the criteria proposal. Some of our demands are usually ruled out for either legal issues, so that it's not possible to do that in line with the procurement directives, or if it breaks down to limiting the choice of what is available on the market too much. So if the criteria would basically lead to that there is only one company you could deliver that solution, that's not acceptable for the public procurement processes, which is supposed to stimulate competition about the best solution and the lowest price.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. We have another question, and I guess it's the last one. It is, do we need to be members of EEB for all the support?
No, that's why we became partner together with eClay for that project, because we know from our own members, it's also, I mean, for each product group, I might get 4 or 5 responses. So it's not that large. The more NGOs who have an interest to work on public procurement, the better. And we appreciate any feedback which we get. So that's why I'm happy to align or to engage more with the members of the NGO network as well. So you don't have to become an EB member for that.
Excellent. Okay, we have no further questions. Thank you very much, Carsten, for your presentation. I hope that everyone, you found this webinar useful. We tried to make it as practical as possible to go really to the point. We both are, eClay and EEB, part of the coordination of this network, so you can ask us questions at any time via email, or anyway, we'll publish all the information at the Sustainable Procurement Platform in the NGO network on GPP. So I hope, as said, that it was useful to you and to your work, and I hope to see you soon and talk to you soon. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Carsten.